Hello, everyone. For our first panel for today, to start the proceedings, the title of the panel is Industry 4.0, Business Models Transformed. And I'd like to introduce Anurag Bajpai, who's a partner and Lower Gulf private enterprise and family business leader from KPMG. Over to you, Anurag.
Karthik, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to our first discussion of this afternoon on the very relevant topic of technology adoption and its impact on business models for family business. My name is Anurag Bajpai, like Karthik said. I am a partner at KPMG based out of the Dubai office, and I'm delighted to be your host for this session. Increased use of technology and digital tools has been a focus for businesses for a number of years. However, before the pandemic, we saw slow adoption of this technology within or by family businesses. The majority of family businesses were very happy following their tried and tested operating models. Now, if there's one good thing that came out of the pandemic, and there was possibly one good thing, was that was the stimulus it provided for businesses in general to understand the value of digital technology. For a number of businesses, digital tools was the only way they could interact and engage with their customers, even engage with their employees. And we see the increased use of technology having a significant impact on business model for family businesses. This is not the only factor impacting business models. There are also changes in consumer behavior. There is market disruption. There is the impact of COVID. There's the ESG agenda. So a number of different factors are having an impact on how family businesses are structured and their operating models. Over the last 6 to 10 months, I've seen a change in my interaction and when I interact with family businesses. I've seen family businesses beginning to look at their operating model, their business models, and they are realizing the potential of using technology. And this message has also come loud and clear in KPMG's 2021 Family Business Report, where we found that 40% of family businesses were 40% more likely to go on a business transformation journey than their non-family business peers. What we've also seen is, interestingly, within family businesses, multi-generation family businesses were more likely, over 45% more likely, to follow a transformation journey compared to single generation peers of theirs. So again, a lot of family businesses are currently looking at the business models, a very relevant topic for discussion. And we've got an esteemed panel of family business leaders from around the region to talk to us about the nuances within family business models, the use of technology, the adoption of technology, and also other related topics. For family businesses, in addition to technology, when they're looking at the transformation journey, even the people agenda, the organizational agenda is a big part of the transformation journey. So we'll talk about these topics in the next hour or so. I'd like to welcome the esteemed panel of family business leaders. They come from a diverse mix of industries from around the region. So welcome to you all, and pleasure to be with you all today. I will sort of briefly introduce you all. So ladies first, we have with us Dr. Sheikha Aisha Bint Faleh Al Thani, Chairperson and founder of Al Falah Educational Holding, the first woman-led Qatari company to go public. It is also the first Qatari educational institution to list on the stock market. Dr. Sheikha is Dr. Aisha is an educationist, and a company operates 3 schools and a university in Doha. She's also served as a member of the Qatar Supreme Educational Council, which is the highest educational authority in Qatar. And she's also been a board member for a number of charitable, organizational, and educational. So welcome, Dr. Aisha. We also have with us Mr. Ayman Tamer. Ayman is the chairman and managing partner at Tamer Group from Saudi Arabia. The group has interest in healthcare, prestige products, and fast-moving consumer products. Tamer has been leading the business for the last 35 years. He is a member of World Economic Forum's family business community. He also sits on the board of a number of organizations. And interestingly, he is a 3rd generation member of his family business. Ayman, welcome. We also have with us Mr. Rashid Khalaf Al Habtoor. He is the CEO and President of Al Habtoor Trading Enterprises and RKH Investments, a UAE holding company. Again, a second-generation member of a prominent UAE business family. Has experience across a diverse range of industries, including oil and gas, construction, engineering, automotive, real estate, and information technology. He is also a keen and a passionate polo player. Mr. Khalaf, welcome. And last but not the least, we have Naveen Walrani. Naveen is the Vice Chairman and Managing Director of Al Sharawi Group, a diversified Dubai headquartered conglomerate. He is also the CEO of Arcadia Education, the group's education initiative. A second-generation member of the business family. Naveen has a passion for philanthropy and teaching, and interestingly teaches the junior MBA program for the primary students in his school. Naveen, welcome to the session. So from my perspective, ladies and gentlemen, I'm really looking forward to hearing your views and learn from your experience. To the audience, please keep your questions coming. There's a chat box. We have a dedicated time at the end of the panel discussion to pick up some of your questions. So please keep on posting your questions through the chat functionality. So maybe I'll open this up by asking maybe an open question to all of you, just to get a sense of what changes have you enacted within your business over the last 12 to 18 months. We know the pandemic has impacted all the sectors. In a number of cases, businesses have had to make temporary changes to how they operate. Now that things are settling into a new normal, can you talk about one change that you made in your business that you now think will become more permanent? So Dr. Aisha, can I maybe start with you, and then we'll go around and getting everyone's view on this. Dr. Aisha, you're on mute, I think.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Indeed, we had to follow suit. The country wisely introduced some regulations to help us and exemptions that helped us adopt the technology that you're mentioning. And a lot of family businesses shy away from adopting digitalization and technological solutions because of the cost mostly, and because of security as well. We spent a lot on security and on data migration to the cloud. I think what really gave us a better position in the market was the fact that we adopted the IT infrastructure. We invested heavily in IT infrastructure a year before this all happened. It was a trend with K-12 schools to do that, and we followed suit. And we were least affected, in my opinion. Of course, the university, the change was easier in the university. With the schools, it was a bit more hectic. We had to, to just improvise in order to have day-to-day operations go smoothly.
Okay.
Now, the hygiene procedures that we're doing, I think, will stay with us after this pandemic is over. Similarly, with the remote working, and inshallah, from here we've learned our lessons, and digitization will help any company. It is embedded now in our strategies, corporate strategies.
Okay. Now, thank you, Dr. Aisha, and some very interesting comments. I don't know, maybe Ayman, do you want to go next and give us your thoughts?
Yes, thank you very much, Anurash. We have a bit of a. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much for the kind introduction. Very nice to meet you, Dr. Aisha. Nice to meet all the panelists. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, because Anuraj is cutting up. For us, the biggest single change that we've had during the pandemic, last 12, 18 months, was really that we prioritized people and we accelerated our pace of change. Our transformation journey started more than 10 years ago. Our 2010 was the first phase where we really focused internally on the company to do what we call business excellence. And that was really to run efficiency, the entire value chain. And for there, we have, your basic systems, inbound logistics, supply chain planning, etc. Once we could run the entire business on an efficient platform, then we could go to the second phase, which was around mid-2015, before COVID, where the company embarked on what we mentioned customer focus, or becoming customer-centric. So all programs, applications, processes were focused on how to better serve the customer. And examples of these include customer service, B2B business platforms, customer statements, etc. That allowed us to come to the third phase, where we started to focus on a real change and to invest outside the box, where we looked at acquisition of business in the e-commerce field in order to build our...
Okay, sorry, I mean, it seems I had a technological issue at my end and I sort of dropped off. Rashid, maybe, Ayman, sorry,
Ayman's already started.
Okay, Ayman.
That's okay. Go ahead, Rashid. So just to close, it's been a journey of over 10 years. But yes, the COVID in the last 18 months made one particular change, that is prioritize our people. And even our people are reprioritizing what they want, more about personal things rather than career and ambitions. So our business model and our employment has to also adapt accordingly. But the biggest change has been people, and the rate of change accelerated. Yeah. Please, Rashid, my apology.
Thank you for the introduction, and welcome to everybody, all the panelists. Of course, COVID came to us with a surprise. The whole world was not ready, let's put it this way. It came February 2020, and the whole world still not clear what to do. And every day we have laws, changes. Today, if you want to travel, you have to make sure you have the right paperwork, all these things. So also in business, it came to us with a surprise. Three things I focused on, that is efficiency, technology, and having people to be multi-purpose. We found out that even, of course, unfortunately, we had to let go lots of employees because slow business, but still we learn and we adapt in the last 1 year to be productive, to be efficient, and we have to invest on people productivity. So we had people to do more than one thing. For example, if you go to a hotel, you don't need the guy to open the door for you and the guy to carry your luggage. So, or the guy in the reception can run the restaurant. So we find out that we can have multi-purpose and more productivity. The other thing also what changed in our life, that we don't have to sit on a plane and fly everywhere for a meeting. Today, with Zoom, you can do a lot, just like our meeting here. So many things have changed in our life within 1 year. And even in our social have changed. So we are still adapting. I have to say, in the last 3-4 months, we're employing a lot of people and starting new businesses, mainly into startups. And we are actually still employing people until this day. So things have changed. And of course, there is some businesses have grown, such as PCR business, like Tamer, Ayman, your Mykonos now. We had to stand. It was difficult even to get somebody to do PCR test for you. I mean, businesses were booming. I mean, that little clinic there, they must be making 100,000 euro a day just doing the PCR test. So this is some of the things that we are looking to do. Thank you.
No, thanks, Rashid, for your thoughts. I don't know, Naveen, over to you.
Yeah, so just reinforcing, firstly, what's already been said, for us, it really came down to people and taking care of people. We've always been a group that has recognized the fact that our people are our biggest assets. And COVID just reinforced that, and it took it to an entirely new level. Of course, there was always the physical health challenge, which was the initial scare. But then it became the mental health challenge. And it was important for us, particularly as leaders and family business leaders, to be there for not only our own families, but our employees. And we needed to show strength, but at the same time also show vulnerability, that we're all in this together. So I think that was the one big change that's going to also remain post-COVID. I think groups, family business groups, will race ahead, because we have that family touch. We not only look at our family as our immediate family, but we look at our groups, our respective groups, as one big family. The other big change, and it really came from our founders, our chairman, Mr. Abdullah Al-Shirawi, and our senior vice chairman, Mr. Mohan Valrani. And they both have always led by example when it came to succession. And during this phase, they took it to an entirely new level, where they encouraged the third generation, so our children, to enter the business. And we've actually succeeded. There's two of the third generation now, namely Abdullah Hisham Al-Shirawi and Rohan Valrani, my son, who have now entered the business. So that was for us a huge success, because until this point in time, we weren't sure which members of the third generation will enter. So the doors have been opened. And really, the founders have led by example, and now the third generation has entered the business, and obviously are going to be here to stay, hopefully. I think we've lost Anurag again.
Yeah, I think we've lost connection with Anurag. I think he should be back shortly. Naveen, you were saying, sorry?
Yeah, no, I finished what I was saying, but we might be able to self-moderate. Anurag's back, I think.
Sure. I mean, we were anyway. We were talking about how the pandemic has been a catalyst for family businesses in the region, and how they've basically forced a lot of family businesses to adapt or to be on a fast track when it comes to digital transformation. And I think because of that, a lot has changed, the future of work, etc. Anurag, I can see him coming back. Anurag, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me? So I think I'm in the office, but it seems I have a very unstable connection, which is surprising. Possibly one of those days. Apologies. No, so what I was saying was really fascinating to hear your comments and the diversity of, so a lot of you spoke about focus on people. Dr. Aisha, you spoke about remote working. Naveen, you spoke about succession. So I think we will unpeel some of these topics as we go along. But maybe now coming to specific questions, and Naveen, I wanted to start with you and I wanted to ask you around, so a lot of businesses, or family businesses we see in the region, are legacy businesses, operate in traditional sectors of the economy.
Speaking, but I can't hear him.
Yeah. From your perspective, what is the business imperative for family businesses in the region to reevaluate their operating models, their business models? What is changing, and why is it so important?
Okay, so I'm not sure if the rest of the panel will agree with me, but I'd like to challenge the question itself.
Okay.
Just looking at the businesses represented on this panel, I think our businesses are very progressive. I think our businesses are very forward-thinking. Dr. Sheikha Aisha talked about the technology in her education business. Rashid spoke about how his hotels are contactless, right? So I think family businesses at times get a bad reputation, undeservedly so, because I think in many ways we are more forward-thinking than most than public businesses, and then even large multinational corporations. But I also think that it's important for family businesses to stay relevant, and what you possibly define as legacy businesses, be that in construction or hotels or schools. I think we have no choice. Every business today is a technology business, whether we like it or not. And I think family businesses have been some of the quickest to adapt to this reality. And also, these discussions about staying relevant mean so much more in a family context than they do when you are working for, let's say, even a Fortune 500 company. I mean, if we look at the makeup of the S&P 500 50 years ago, how many of those companies are existing today?
Sure. Yeah.
But I can assure you that Rashid's group or Dr. Sheikha's group or Mr. Tamer's group or ours will be here 50 years from now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you raise a great point. And when I said...
Sorry, Anurag, I can't hear you.
Okay.
I can hear him.
Okay. Can the others hear me?
Oh, I can't hear him.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so, I can hear you.
Okay. No, so Naveed, when I said legacy business, I meant that the sectors that they operate in are largely the traditional sectors you said. But I sort of agree with you that in the current context, every business has to look at technology, and a lot of family businesses are very progressive, like you said, and they've been the first to adapt. And even what came out of our survey and what we see, that the digital transformation journey is faster in family businesses compared to the non-family peers. So I totally agree with what you're saying, and that makes a lot of sense. Maybe moving on. I don't know whether Rashid can hear me, but Ayman, I'll sort of ask you the next question.
Please.
And this is around. We know your group has embarked on a digital transformation journey over the last few years. So my question was, when you started off in this journey, was it before the pandemic, or this became an area of focus while the pandemic was happening? And maybe, yeah, if you could sort of answer that question, then I have a follow-on question for you.
Sure. To add and comment how much I agree with Naveen's thoughts that yes, family businesses are forward-looking, and digital transformation, it's a challenge for all business in all regions. It's a global challenge. It's not only for family businesses, and especially in the healthcare sector, is undergoing itself transformation and digital transformation. But to answer your question, as I mentioned earlier, our journey started before the pandemic, about 10 years ago, where we focused. There were 3 phases in our journey of transformation, which started in 2010. The first wave was focusing on business excellence, as I mentioned earlier, and that focused on really building efficiency throughout the value chain, digitalizing everything from invoicing to proof of deliveries, inbound, outbound logistics, warehouse management systems, last mile delivery, etc. Once we embarked on that digitalization and efficiency, we could then have a platform that allows us to go to the second wave, which started around 2015, 5 years later. And that was focusing more on the customer, how to better serve the customer. And it was more services of customer-centric, such as, just to give examples to make it more clear, waves of B2B e-commerce platform for ordering, invoicing, customer statement, vendor management, inventory, customer services. So it was really connecting to the customer and becoming more customer-centric. Doing that, when the pandemic started in 2020, we were already thinking out of the box, and that accelerated our third wave to say we need to embrace digitalization in full as a core of our business and not as a department. and we started establishing a new wholesale business that is digital. It's under planning now, from day one, paperless. And here we acquired Mom's World and went into this field out of the box, where we want to really embrace in this digital change.
Okay. No, I think that's interesting, and I think and what I'm hearing is you're saying that your transformation journey started before the pandemic, and you could really leverage that functionality or capability you had to.
I can say the pandemic accelerated the third wave.
Yeah. Okay.
It gave us the courage to take more risk, because in risky times it's natural to take more risk. So it becomes it accelerates your thoughts. Things you were thinking to do in 3 years, you've done in 1 year, 6 months. You have no more time to think.
Yeah, no, and I think, no, you're right. And we've seen this across a number of trends. We've seen in a number of cases, pandemic has either accelerated a trend or it has brought a trend to more prominence. And maybe, Rashid, maybe my question to you is, have you seen, as far as your business is concerned, were there any strategies that you were already working on that became more important to you during the course of the pandemic? What were your what are your learnings from this?
Of course, first thing we had to learn to adapt to the situation. But when it comes to technology, I mean, since I left college, 1991, I joined my father group. Always we are updating our technology and information technology and all of this thing, because as you know, in the hotel business and in the automotive business, you have huge softwares, and this has been advancing every year. But what happened during pandemic, that is have accelerated things. Things were going faster and faster, and we are changing and we are discovering new ways to adapt to what's happening, and that is through technology. So efficiency and technology and going digital. Of course, efficiency in delivery, invoicing, accounting, in the spare part business, car business, export business. As you know, Dubai is very huge in export. So we do almost 40-50% of our volume cars, deliveries, and things like that. So we have today we have clients in, let's say in Africa, they don't need to fly to Dubai to take the cars. We do everything online. The meetings, the picture, the brands, all this. So these things have changed. Of course, some businesses is affected, which you cannot do anything about it, such as airline business, hotel business, events, exhibition, wedding planning, museums, these things. On the other hand, technology have boosted other businesses, especially as delivery and ordering. So traditional businesses have to adapt to digital life and the way we advance. So, but we have to we have to be updated of what's happening in the market, because this pandemic, it looks like it's going to stay with us for a long time, and it's not going to go, life is not going to be like, how is it before 2020. But at the same time, we are seeing things are improving, such as airline flights. And I mean, I've been traveling for the last 2 weeks, and I tell you, everywhere I go is extremely busy. So hopefully things will go back to normal, but in a different way. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I like, Rashid, the point you make around efficiency. So I think even the way we see what's happening with businesses, I think everyone's learned a new way to operate, a more efficient way to operate, so it's opened possibilities for people that people didn't really think of earlier because they weren't thinking out of the box. So no, I think you raise a very, very valid point there, that it forced people to think harder. Dr. Aisha, my sort of moving on to you, you are an educationist, run a number of schools, colleges. Education was one of the sectors that was the first to go down the digital transformation journey. Obviously, you moved to online learning. Obviously, the other panelists have spoken about the technology element, but a lot of this adoption or transformation is about change, is about people management, is about how do you manage change in the organization. What were your learnings through this process of shifting your entire customer interaction to a different medium? So what were your learnings from it?
I have to say first that when we decided to go public, it was a year before the pandemic, and we were rated by top agencies like Deloitte, KPMG, and Ernst & Young. And we scored highly in corporate governance practices and processes. However, we fell short when it came to digitization and data protection and so on and so forth. So we were reluctant to adopt to this new technologies and the digitization solutions that we were offered. And then the pandemic happened. So we had no choice but to move forward. I think the pandemic was a blessing in that it accelerated our journey, if you like, through that route. And since then, we've adopted to the new solutions. And what I feel really the benefit of that we reaped was the employees' empowerment. They were empowered. For example, the lectures were more online, so the students were challenged to think outside of the box in order to fill some shortcomings, as well as the teachers had to think outside the box in order to deliver their lectures. So this whole experience enhanced that teaching and learning experience, if you like. The transformation going forward has to do a lot with digitization. We've since then contracted another company, a second party, Maqdam, to offer a platform, a new platform, a state-of-the-art platform for learning systems. And we're very excited. We've just implemented it. It is mind-blowing how now parents and teachers and anybody can log in to this platform and get the information sometimes even before we get it. So that kind of transparency is very efficient, and we're very excited going forward.
Okay, no, and you raised some good points here. I think you also reinforced what Rashid said earlier about the efficiency and the speed of change, and also the transparency element. So no, all very relevant points. Ayman, maybe let me come back to you with a question. And obviously, you've gone through different waves of transformation or digitization of your business. What are the important factors that family businesses should be aware of when embarking on their transformation journey? So what's really critical for family business, given their peculiarities, to focus on?
Thank you. Well, first thing comes into my mind is resistance. You are going to have resistance when you want to adapt change, because people are always happy in their comfort zone. So a good deal of effort needs to be made in fostering a digital culture within the organization. And this culture shouldn't be only in sales and IT, it should be for all departments, all including HR, OD, and all shared services. So it has to be a culture change. You should establish clear plans with a roadmap on what you want to implement. As Dr. Aisha mentioned, they had a clear plan what to do. And it should be driven by a PMO, Project Management Office. So everyone is aligned on that plan, and then you can put through that cultural change. Expect setbacks, expect resistance, and you need to push through that, because people don't like change. They like to do things the way they've been doing it for the last 30 years. So that's the biggest challenge that you should be aware of. I think we lost our...
I think we've, I think Anurag's having technical issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Ayman, I mean, what you said in terms of specifically makes sense. Naveen, I mean, I wanted to obviously continue the conversation with you. We've seen that ESG has risen in prominence globally, and businesses are increasingly focusing on including sustainability as a major part of their business plans. A number of family businesses as well are committed to their communities and driven by a strong sense of shared values. So, but according to you, what are your thoughts on the importance of the ESG agenda for family businesses, especially in this region? And what do you think family businesses need in terms of to change specifically?
So, ESG is hugely important, and it really starts off from the consumer or the customer. The customer is the one with the dollars in the wallet, as they say. And the customer is dictating now and saying, I want to deal with companies that stand for what the ESG framework espouses. So whether it's environmental factors, for instance, we're putting in what is considered a significant investment into schools. And all our school buildings are LEED certified. In fact, our latest school building is LEED Gold certified. Now, what is LEED Gold certified? It's a certificate from the US Green Building Council, but it also shows our commitment to the environment, to the fact that our building is built with a certain percentage of recyclable materials, to the fact that there is indoor air quality that is measured and monitored, the fact that we do our carbon footprint is neutral. So those are the kind of things that companies and companies, organizations such as ourselves are committing ourselves to, even when it comes to social issues, the empowerment of women. I don't think an organization today can survive in the current context of the world without committing themselves to the empowerment of women. And we've seen, even as governments, the government of Dubai, how they've led from the front on that issue. When it comes to governance, I think governance is critical. Good corporate governance for any organization, and particularly for family businesses, where we've historically, as family businesses, as a sector, we've struggled in this area. But as we attract valuations in some way, shape, or form, whether it be in the public markets or through private equity or otherwise, one of the things organizations look at, and one of the things that enhances value, is good governance. So again, I don't think we have a choice when it comes to ESG. I think it's the need of the hour, and family businesses have to respond.
Yeah, no, Naveen, I think, and you raise a great point. What we have typically seen with family businesses is family businesses haven't. So while you have the family ethos, purpose, they're committed to the communities, but it is not part of the business. So families do this saying, "Oh, we run our business, but then we do the community work on the side." And I think now there's an increasingly need for families' commitment to the community to be reflected in their business plans. And I think that is where we see a disconnect with a number of family businesses. And like I said, the customer is sort of has a voice, and they are voicing it through their wallet. So I think increasingly important for family businesses to showcase and have ESG higher up on their agenda. And I know you sort of covered what do family businesses and how should family businesses go forward. But maybe I'll also sort of bring Dr. Aisha in this conversation and ask her if she thinks there's anything specific that family businesses need to do to bring ESG on the top of the agenda, because currently it doesn't sit there.
As you know, I sat on international philanthropic corporations on the board of that. So ESG is so much a part of our long-term planning. And I've always been an advocate for introducing gender quota, especially on executive boards. As you know, it is very hard for women to get on executive boards. Not only that, but also to stay on them is very hard. So this subject is very close to my heart. And I wrote some articles on this subject. For these practices to be achieved, I think there should be a collaborative effort between investors, businesses and communities. As you mentioned, that investors can dictate now what they want, and this collaboration on the governmental level as well, I have to say, will push this agenda forward as we go.
Okay. Now, I sort of, you raised some good point about collaboration between different stakeholders to push the ESG agenda on top of the priority for family businesses, which makes sense. Maybe now moving on to another topic within that's important from a transformation perspective is about talent and skill. Rashid, maybe I'll sort of bring you in the conversation. A question for you is obviously, with transformation, you need different skill set. What do family businesses need to do to attract and retain the right talent in the business? Because sometimes you hear about the glass ceiling in family businesses. You can only progress up to a particular stage, and after that, your growth stops. So, what are your thoughts on this?
Of course, finding the right person with experience is not easy these days, because the good people, the high quality people that productive, it's not easy for other businesses to let them go. So you have to find juniors one and try to advance them up. You need to skill them. And takes time. And you have also to take care of them, to keep them. I mean, I have some people that are still with me after 30 years. They're still in my office. And not easy to let them go, because you need the loyalty, you need the experience, you need people that you are comfortable with, that you work with. On the other hand, in the family business also, the most important thing is the education of the new generation of the family. For example, in our family now, we are 3 generations working together. But my biggest worry also from the new generation on, like you said, we could talk about technology a lot, but we're not saying also the negative part about the technology, such as you know, Dr. Aisha, we are also on schools, the Emirates International School in Dubai. So to see my son, I have one son still in school, he's 12 years old, for 6 months going online, it is different than going to school and playing with the children and grow up. My fear is that the new generation might change a little bit. And that is an area where we have to fix it. Because of the education, for example, now children have to go to school with a mask. You're not allowed to speak to the other children. You cannot play with them. These are things we have to focus on them in the future, because I'm a little bit worried on the new generation, how they're going to come up. I'm talking about in the next 10 years. This is important.
Yeah, no, makes sense. And I think, Naveen, on this point that Rashid raised, maybe I'll sort of put you on the spot. And obviously, you come from the education sector. You're a family business. You're a member. What are the skills required for in the new era to lead a family business that's going through a transformation journey? And where would the skill come from? Would it come from within the family, like Rashid said, or businesses have to look at professionals?
That's a great question. So I recently finished one of Steve Jobs's many biographies, and there's something that he said, and I'm paraphrasing. He said to one of his colleagues that you can never compel someone to work hard who himself or herself doesn't want to work hard. And I think with family businesses and family leaders, you have to create a culture and an environment where the right set of values foster themselves. In terms of the way I look at things, I think what's critical for a family business leader is humility. That's sort of right on top of the list. One has to have their feet on the ground, and one has to be of a mindset where one is willing to serve. I was sharing with my COO the other day that people are mistaken that, they think as you move up in the organization, you actually gain more power. But it's actually the direct opposite. As you move up the organization, you actually lose power. Because today, I don't think any of us would make a decision that would impact one of our business units without, checking with the general manager of the business or the director of the business. And then the director of the business would in turn check with their operatives in the field, et cetera, et cetera. So I think humility is a critical skill set. Empathy. I think particularly, during COVID times, one has to be able to empathize with others, with members of their own family, members of their organization, and really relate to what they're going through. Everyone is going through their own journey. And I think it is, as leaders, we have to be careful not to judge people, because no one can even imagine what anyone is going through. There are people who haven't seen their family for 2 years now. And that in itself has all sorts of consequences. And last but not least, dedication. I strongly believe there is no replacement to hard work. And hard work comes from family values. And family values are fostered as from the day a child is born. And I think, again, family businesses in the environment that we're going into, I believe are ideally positioned to take advantage of this new world that seems to be waiting for us over the next several years and beyond.
Okay. No, and I think, and in a way, it is fascinating. We talk about the technology age and businesses focusing on technology, but the human element that you spoke about still continues to be so important and so relevant, right? The humility, the empathy with people, and understanding what they're going through, which is really important. And I totally agree with your thoughts. Maybe moving on, we've spoken about talent, we've spoken about ESG. Maybe one question, Ayman, that I like to bring you into the conversation. And I know, and specifically talking about what's happening in your growth. Now, what sectors do you foresee undergoing the most transformation within the groups? I know you are multi-product, multi-category. Where do you see the most transformation happening within your business?
Thanks a lot. I wanted just to comment 2 words on, I cannot agree as much with Rashid and Naveen on their very important points about attracting talent and about our concern about this new COVID, what they call COVID generation, because they are living in a different norms, which is not very sociable and which will have an impact. But on the talent part, I just wanted to add that to attract and retain talent, you have to have a fair playing field. Talented people don't mind losing or failures, but they don't accept injustice. So you have to have a fair playing field. In other words, you have to have an ethics committee, a code of ethics. Like we always say, the big saying, you join a company and you leave a boss. So when you see people draining in a department, the first thing you ask yourself, who's the boss? And yes, Naveen, the boss has less authority and we serve more. We think as we go up, we serve less. In fact, we serve more. And just to add, yes, humility, empathy, and we also need to have agility. To go back to your question, all sectors will face change. All departments will have to change. You cannot have one sector. This challenge of digitalization has to become core. I'm not part of the digital world. I was born in 1965. I'm 56 years old and going to be 57 real soon. And I tell you, I missed it. But every new kid has to have a laptop if he is to consider himself educated. And I think the way we communicate and the way we operate will become more intelligent and more efficient as we use technology the proper way.
Yeah, no, I think makes sense. And I think, like I said, there can be no sector that can be immune from the change that's happening, and that's a very relevant point. Maybe there's sort of time for one more question that I'll want, and this is about we've sort of touched on it a bit about next gen and succession. I mean, you picked up this topic, and I know this is a topic close to your heart. How do you see the role of next gen in today's world for a family business? Again, we've seen over the pandemic, different generations come together, to help business ride the storm. The younger generation's contribution towards digitizing the business has been immense, because they understand technology better than anybody else in the family. How do you see, this whole interplay between next gen involvement in the business, succession in today's digital era?
So I think from my perspective, succession is critical for family businesses. Large majority of family businesses don't believe in going public or selling to private equity. They believe in continuing the legacies that were set by the founder. And while digitization and tech is important, I consider myself quite a technocrat. But that can be outsourced, that can be hired. The talent is there. We can go to KPMG and say, okay, come and give us a digitization solution. Where I think succession is absolutely critical is purpose. We all have stories that stem from our fathers and grandfathers. And for instance, in my case, my grandfather and my father landed in India as refugees. And my father traveled abroad with this ambition to become a successful entrepreneur, a successful business person. And that to me drives me. It gives me purpose, that I go to work every day knowing that those that have sacrificed before me, I can't let them down. Similarly, I share these stories with my children and with the children of the Al-Sharawi family, and say, you have the weight of your grandfather's hard work on your shoulders, and you need to take this forward. And it's very difficult for me to give that same sense of purpose to someone outside the family. But when it's a person who's within the family and you really share these stories, it has an impact that is unmeasurable.
Yeah, no, I think, and again,
Anurag, I think I think it's true what they say, that when you're having interesting conversations, you don't realize the passing of time. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time for the panel. I think we have time maybe for one or two questions in the Q&A tab that we can go to. I'll put up a couple of questions on stage, and we can have the speakers pick it up, the panelists pick it up, depending on who's comfortable.
Okay.
I'll be happy to take that.
Yes, Mr. Ayman.
Yeah, Mr. Ayman.
Yeah, I think it's not optimization is different from transformation, and because optimization, you change what you currently do in a more efficient way. Transformation, you change holistically the way you operate. Because when I have a legacy business that's 100 years old. Next year, we celebrate our 100-year anniversary, started by my grandfather. I'm third generation, and soon will be the fourth generation coming in. And the most important thing is that the manual system we used to operate is not the process we need to digitize. So the difference between digitization and digitalization is that you need to change the process, the way you operate. And that requires a change, a transformation in the way we operate. It forces people not just to optimize, to make it faster, more efficient, but to actually change the way they do it. So yeah, it is a transformation. I hope I've answered the question.
Thank you, Mr. Ayman. I think that's the end of it. If anybody's got some final remarks, we can get to that, or I think we'll move on to our next session.
I think thank you all. Thank you all for your time. This was fascinating and very interesting conversation.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes,
think,
Mr. Rashid.
very, very important in the new generation. I'm always talking about the new generation. Like we said, they need not only to be talented for the continuation of the family business, they need to be educated with discipline. Discipline is extremely important for the new generation. That is what we have to focus on, because our generation is totally different. Our parents, when they did the business in the 60s and the 70s, they struggled to build these empires. Then we came. I'm born 1966 and went to George Washington University. And when we came, we listened. The new generation, our children, little bit not as disciplined, but the fourth generation, that is the worry with the technology. If today you go home, I tell my son, let's go have lunch in one of our hotels. No, I don't want to go because he's playing a game. So these things are affecting the family businesses. So most important thing that new generation with education, technology, and discipline, we can produce a good, talented new generation for the families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid.
Thank you, Mr. Rashid. Thank you, gentlemen, Your Excellency, and Anurag for the insightful conversation. Obviously, it's very insightful to hear from all in terms of such diverse businesses, such diverse sectors, and how you all have adapted and how you all have thrived, used the challenge or the crisis as an opportunity to grow. Thank you so much for the time today, and it was a pleasure having you all on the panel.